morning, everyone. How is everybody today? Everybody doing good? Can you hear me okay? Nod your head if you got your video on. I don't see everybody. Yep, you got us. Okay. Good, good. Somebody needs to check on Miriam. I think she fell down. She's laying in her carpet. I'm kidding. Oh, you're hiding behind your blanket.
I'm at work. I have the earphones. I'm at work.
You're fine. You're fine. I'm just having fun with you.
I like to too. I have a big belly too. My father gave me two.
Oh, we'll mute you out. So yeah, we've been together for what, 18 weeks? If you haven't been in all the sessions, but you've been in some of them, I think we all know each other well enough to start having some fun, don't you? Yeah, I believe so. If you're not having fun, it's not worth doing. So anybody got any ahas or things that you've implemented from any of our past sessions, and or anything you want to make sure you get out of today's session before we get started? Because really, I mean, these sessions are for you guys. They're not for me. I mean, I'm just sharing the stuff that we do every day and the things that I've implemented to be successful in real estate. So, but you're the one taking the time out of your schedule to absorb all this and learn it. So let me know what you want to get out of today's session, if there's anything specific or anything that you've put in place that's working for you. Everybody would love to hear that. We got shy people on the group today. All right, well then let's just jump into it. You guys ready? You got pens and paper kind of handy? Did you download the workbook for today so you can take some notes? Because this is contract to close. This is the stuff that we get paid after you've done everything that we've done all the way through all Spark and all the way through all elements. This is when you get paid. So this is a big day today, and it's kind of, I mean, I appreciate your feedback. When you guys send feedback and tell me this was one of the most awesome classes ever, I mean, that helps me know that I gave you some great material that you can use. And I've gotten one of those every so often from one class to the next, and every class is going to be different for you. Every session is going to be different depending on where you are in your business. So anytime you guys have a great class, share that testimonial. The coaching style, any of that stuff, always give those kudos out whenever somebody does a good job. Because here's the thing. Today in my coaching group on the Clubhouse app that I get on every day, and that's my mojo for the day, hanging out with other coaches and sharing on topics. And we were talking about criticism, like asking for feedback and criticism and things like that, and how you receive it and take it. And honestly, like you will get negative energy and negative feedback way more than you'll ever get positive feedback. And you think about, you know, you go out and you have a bad experience at a restaurant, man, everybody says, don't go there, don't go there. But you have a great experience and we don't tell as many people, or we don't tell anybody at all. It's just a great experience. And you might even share with one person, oh man, that restaurant's awesome, but you don't go and blast it out. So that's where I want your help. Your payback for me sharing the information and really working hard to bring it in a format that I think is best for you to absorb it and get it into your business, and, you know, sharing to do the repetition, all that. Your feedback for me is to share that on your office page, saying, oh my gosh, this session was this, whatever it was, sharing how awesome it was so people will join. And then obviously, if the style or something of the information wasn't great and you took time out of your schedule and you feel like you wasted it, let me know. Because one of the things I shared about that is your perception of what you take away from every one of these sessions is your reality. And my goal is to make sure I put an impression on you guys enough that you grab something that you can use to grow your business and eventually get to 100 sales a year, right? So whatever your perception is your reality, and it wasn't what I intended if it was bad. That's why I always say share the great stuff. if you don't like the way something went down, share it with me, because I need to know where I missed the mark to get through to you. And it may not have been that same experience for everybody else, which is why, it's just really your experience, and share it with that person. So anyway, that's just my little thank you to you guys for investing in yourself. And if anybody ever asks, how can I help you? Because you got some great content, that's one way you can do it, blasting that everywhere on my coach Facebook page, the office page, more importantly, so we can get more and more of the agents in your office in. Guys, think about this for 1 minute. Every agent in your office, as more and more of your KW signs show up in the marketplace and on the websites and dominating, the impact is crazy. Like, it makes your job easier, not more competitive, right? And you can actually take advantage of the profit sharing system sometime if you haven't done that already. If co-op agents are seeing our stuff everywhere, and we have great co-ops, we're going to talk about your relationship with your co-op agents today as part of today's conversation. And when you guys all have that, and everybody in your office has that, your competition pays attention. And there's more days that they're not happy where they are than when they are happy. And those are the people that, will think about, remember how the transaction was with you. All right. So anything, guys, spark anything, give anybody an opportunity to think of anything they want to cover, get out of today's session. One last shot, and then we're going to jump into the material. All right, here we go, guys. This is some great stuff that we're going to share today, and I've got some great systems that I'm going to share with you as well. So today's session is on contract to close. Where is my cursor? There we go. Contract to close. So today we're going to be talking about just maybe not so much every little detail on negotiating contracts, but that transaction management from the time you write an offer until it closes. How do you make sure that everything gets done? And I do understand too, many of you may be fairly new or haven't written many contracts, so you're not even sure what needs to be done. This is actually the perfect time for you to sit down, get the basic things that need to happen, and then fill in all the wow factors when you're creating your system. And we'll actually show you what some of those systems look like. And when you're talking about vendor management, that's everybody else that's involved in the transaction. Guys, there are so many people involved in a real estate transaction from the time it gets a contract until it closes that it's absolutely guaranteed that not everyone in that transaction will do their job the way they were supposed to do their job, which means ultimately that when there's a hitch in any transaction along the way, you guys are going to find out, if you haven't done many contracts yet, that you're the one that's responsible for it not going well. It'll always be our fault. And then what we do is, when the client's mad at us and thinking something screwy's going on, then we just pass that down the line and we start blaming other people in front. Well, it wasn't my fault. It was that lender's fault, or it was that other co-op agent's fault. Guys, smart business people don't pass the blame. They own it. They figure out how to fix it. They own it by saying, I'm going to get it straightened out. But we're going to talk about there's some points in the transaction where you don't have control of the transaction. So you need to make sure your client knows that ahead of time, so that if they start wondering what's going on, that they know that this is that point where I said I lose control. And then the last thing, of course, is compliance. Without compliance, you don't get paid. So don't spend all your time 2 hours a day going through everything in the background and not adding your 5 people to your database every day. Always make your connections and add your 5 people for the day, and then go in and understand transactions or understand what needs to be signed. And the absolute best way, if you'll write this down, is sell 5 houses a month and you'll figure out how to write a contract. Sell 10 houses a month and you'll be teaching a class on how to write a contract. And I'm talking to everyone who hasn't written a contract yet. The best way to learn contracts is to do more than 1 a month and do more than 2 a month. It's to do 5 or 6 a month. The way you do 5 or 6 a month is just do your 5. Go connect with 5 people, write a handwritten note, put them on a drip plan, a smart campaign in command, whatever it is, just let that do its work. You do those 5 people every day for the next year, you'll have 1,200 people that you've been connecting with. you will know how to do contracts before you get to the end of the 12 months, because 120 people are moving, about 10 a month are moving out of those 1,200. You'll have plenty of opportunities to learn, mess up, figure it out, and go from there. So on this part, it's just building the buyer and seller timeline. So this is probably one of the coolest processes. What I've done is I've kind of mastered the system to create systems. And I'm sharing a slide. If you've got the computer up and you're watching us online, or you can go to the website that I set up for you all as a resource site. In fact, I'll go ahead and pop it in the chat just so you guys can click on it and get straight to it. Now, if you registered on that one link I set up for you that one time, my keyboard's always in a bad spot. If you signed up for that link where you're getting my drip plan, and that was to help you stay accountable or keep me in front of you, then you've already got this. But if you haven't, I'm going to give you the shortcut today, coachkorn.com/emyths/free-stuff.htm. All right, so you can click on that and it'll take you right to the resource page. That if you scroll down, you'll see this graphic that we have on the screen right now. And it says step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. What this is the timelines that we're about to talk to. And I'm going to show you the actual timelines we created from this process. And it literally is on, if you see step 1, it is a piece of paper. And if you look at it closely, it's handwritten. And it is literally just writing down everything on a notebook page that you can think of from the time you get a contract until it closes. Write down everything that you think needs to happen, right? Now, if you're fairly new, then you can go to your productivity coach or your team leader and just say, hey, can I get, half an hour, 45 minutes of your time? I'm building my buyer timeline and my seller timeline, and I would like to get your opinion on a couple things. Guys, they're there to help you grow your business, right? So help them by setting up an appointment and say, all right, I created this list of everything from the time I get a contract on my seller's property until it closes. Is there anything that I'm missing in here that you can add that step in? And then just write it in there, right? So then we take, if you see step 2, we take every one of those lines and we put them on a sticky note. This is how I do it, okay? Put it on a sticky note. And then on step 3, you'll see 2 pictures where we take each individual item and we start sticking it up on the wall. And there's basically pretty much 4 core or 4 systems that are critical. So write these down. It's 1, from the time you get a buyer, to sign a buyer agency or to work with you until they find a house. There's a process. So new buyer to contract, right? And then there's also from the time they write a contract and it gets accepted until it closes. That's the second process. With a seller, there's a time we list a home until it gets a contract. And then there's contract to close for the seller, because there's just a couple. I mean, a lot of the process might be the same on contract to close, but there will be different things for buyers than there will for sellers. So we're going to talk about this today, where there's a lender involved for a buyer. You need to be checking in with the lender. Don't wait for them to do their job. You need to be checking in with the title company. Don't wait for them to do your job. You need to know if the appraisal's been ordered yet. Don't wait for them to tell you if the appraisal's done. See, because those are the glitches in the system that other people don't do their job, and maybe they don't know their job. Who knows why they don't do their job? Some people are just lazy. It doesn't matter. Your client experience is going to be based on your referrals, and everything else that you get from that client experience is going to be based on how well you manage the transaction. So these people are part of your team. And I have always said, man, if you got a title company and a lender, even if you use a couple different lenders, an inspection guy, a termite guy, a handyman, a title company, man, one day grab a camera, get a photographer for an afternoon, take them all out for lunch and do a group picture of your team. You have a team. All of us have a team. Your office staff there at the office, it's all one big team. So you have a team right now, even if you're an individual agent, because these people are part of your client's experience. So when you go through this process, what we do is we write down every step that we have in the process. We put on the sticky note the actual process. We put it up on the wall in the order that it happens. Now, if you look closely at step 2, down in the bottom corner of the sticky note, some of them have a date assigned to it and some of them have people's name. Well, everything has a person's name on it. And that name that's on that sticky note is your team member, wherever that fits in the process that your team is in there. Because if you go to step 4, once we have the sticky note determined what the actual item is, when it happens in our perfect world, and who's responsible for it, we can create this spreadsheet that actually has every item listed, when it needs to happen in the process on the timeline, right? I'm going to show you one of these in real time here in just a second, that where it happens on the timeline. And then all those other columns are the people on my team. And we just put an X in the column if they're responsible for that action item. Guys, how many of you right now are kind of going, holy crap, we just went to mastery level. We just went to get our master's degree in transaction management, right? This is advanced, so advanced. It's so simple. First of all, this process is so simple, but it's so advanced. I'm going to tell you, over 90% of the real estate agents in the industry, well, probably more like 99% outside of Keller Williams and 90% of the agents inside Keller Williams probably don't have a process like this, that they have gotten it dialed in this much. It's really the top of the top of the top that created systems, and they're expanding and they got big teams. You have to have a system. You can't wing it, right? So in this process, you know, this is going to help you eliminate having to blame somebody else if things slip through the cracks or how it's going to happen. So let's talk about this buyer timeline, right? As you go through the buyer process that you're working on and putting those sticky notes up, what you're going to find when you do this and you write out your timeline is that from the time a buyer writes a contract until it closes, because how many days does it take for a contract to close there? 30 days, 45 days? Give me a thumbs up. Is that about right? Yep. I'm only seeing a few of you, so I don't have everybody on the screen, and not everybody has their cameras on, but would you guys all say it's around 30 to 45 days occasionally?
45 to 60 days.
45 to 60 days. Okay. Yep. That's fair. So here's what happens. Contract accepted, major excitement, inspection, all this stuff needs to happen, right? Get it to the lender, get the rate locked in. All that stuff's happening. Get that done in about a week to 10 days. And then there's nothing for about 30 to 45 days. And then 1 week to 2 weeks before closing, all of a sudden it's get the closing set up, you know, get their money, get their certified funds for closing rounded up, get this done, get that done, call the title company, is the title in order? So there's this big gap. And when you put these sticky notes up there, you'll see these gaps in the process where you can add in a step, like maybe once a week with an update. Hey, everything's on track, everything's closing. I always say the hurry up and wait game. So we hurry up a lot in the beginning. We wait through the middle. It's going to seem like nothing's going on, but there's a lot happening. It's still processing. And then it's hurry up again at the closing. So add some personal touches in there just to touch base with them, see if they're going okay. And guys, these are the perfect opportunities to say, do you have your moving lined up? Have you started on the utilities? Have you started finding the utility companies to switch everything over? So you can have some filler in there to stay in touch with them. I have set up so many systems for big teams where they brought me in to set these up, and there's no personal touches in their systems. It's all computerized and it's all checklist and it's all people doing their job, but the client has no idea what's happening behind the scenes. So add those steps, go back in there that go back out to your client. So here's what this is the Korn team buyer process. We use this on every contract we write. I've got, let me see, 1, 2, 3 of them running right now on buyers that are closing this month, it's processing through the transaction. And if you're not looking at your screen, this is my action plan for the Korn team buyer offer to close. And it's a 45-day plan. So these are in your smart plans. You can create a smart plan in Command to do all this stuff. In the one, my active database that I'm still using, because I use Command every single day. We put our clients in there that are active. We start the transaction. We follow everything through. We create the dot loop through it. We do all that. But we've got so many people in my other database that I'll be switching over as I can. But I've got thousands of people on hundreds of plans, hundreds of different plans. So it's not just a quick export and import. It's going to be slowly moving people over. But in this particular case, you can create this exact same thing in a smart plan where you can see that. So offers accepted. Day 0, what happens is we open the contact record up and we start the smart plan for contract to close the day the offer is accepted. So the day the offer is accepted, and you'll also see Lori's on here. That's my part-time administrative person. She works 2 days a week. Thursday and Friday, she doesn't have her children. They're in school Monday through Wednesday. And I don't know if that's changed at all now, but she works kind of part-time and does it a couple hours a day and goes in and does her checklist. But you'll see that I'm leveraged right now from one agent to an agent with an assistant. That's a level 2 of the MREA 7 levels, right? So what happened here was I was doing it all. And in 2019, Lori's name wasn't on all that stuff. It was just me. Every task was mine. And so all I did was open up the contact management system, go to my dashboard and see what my task items were for today. So, I mean, really, how many buyers are you guys working with on any given day? How many contracts are being accepted by buyers every single day? You know, you're not writing 5 contracts a day, getting 5 contracts accepted on the same day, 5 days a week, 25 contracts a week. So look at day 0. There's 4 items to do on there. Send the copy of the contract to the loan officer, send a copy to the title company, make sure we get the earnest money check from the buyer, and a letter goes out, or actually mail a letter. It says it right there in the first column, a letter. Congratulations, your offer has been accepted. So that's going in the mail on day 0. That prints to the printer, goes in the mail. Buyer's going to get it in a couple of days. And so right when they're not sure what's going on because there's busy stuff happening, they're going to get a letter. Congratulations, your offer's been accepted. We're already working on the process and we're going to get you through to closing smoothly. So that's the kind of stuff that might be missing from your current plan, if you even have a plan, right? So it's 4 items. It's 4 things that I have to do. I don't need to hire a full-time assistant to do 4 things today. And if you look at the next day, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 things on day 1. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 things on day 2, 2 things on day 4, and 4 things on day 7. I mean, it's just 1 or 2, 3, 4 things. Sending a copy to the lender is called an email, PDF. That takes less than 3 to 4 seconds to do. Open up the email, put in there an email, attach the file, send, right? Or if I'm in dot loop, sending the contract to the LO and sending the title company the contract is actually done at 1 step. I just select them because they're people in my dot loop file. And I say, send the copy of the contract. It takes, I mean, literally 5, 10, 15 seconds. So I don't need a full-time person to process 4 or 5 contracts in a month because it's all spread out. So it just depends on what everything else is that you're doing. Now, remember, if you guys have questions or something's popping up in your mind and you need to ask a question, raise your hand. I'll see it pop up on the screen and I'll take a breath so you can jump in. Otherwise, just try to jump in anywhere. So this plan runs. Brad Korn has 4 things to do when he's by himself. But then when he brings his assistant in, because now he's closing 7 or 8 deals a month, right? So now I've actually stockpiled 3 months worth of salary to bring Lori back in to be my part-time assistant so I can pay her salary. I've got 3 months sitting there. Now I can actually hire her because it's red light, green light, right? Red light's on until I create the systems that allow me to do this efficiently so that when I bring Lori in, she's doing things efficiently. I'm not having her create it. She doesn't do the transaction every day. She won't know how to set this system up. No admin will, because it's not their system, it's your system. You're the one that's creating this experience, what you want that experience to be for your client. So when I just copied that smart plan. I added Lori's name in front of the things that are coming off my plate. And if you go back to the spreadsheet, Actually, I'll show you the spreadsheet again. That spreadsheet, those columns that have names on it with X's, if I'm a single agent, all the X's are in my column, right? And then when I add an admin, I go through each individual item and I go, oh, that's something she can do. That's something she can do. So right now, with a part-time assistant closing 7 or 8 deals a month, and you're looking at the guy that runs the business, and there's no big buyer agent team or listing team or none of that. It's me and Lori selling 70 homes a year, right? Those items, when they go to Lori, they're still things that I'm doing that are boots on the ground, or I need the copy machine behind me. I still stuff right now my letters that go out as my drip plan, because Lori doesn't have a high-tech, high-gloss copier. She has her little printer there that I can't have her printing 100 letters a day. It would jam her up. She's better off managing the stuff that she can do there off-site virtually. So she's really just a virtual assistant. Let me take you through another one. So this is on the buyer. When you're building your buyer timeline from the time they get an offer accepted to close. I mean, again, the appraisal, even though the appraisal is something that we're on with the lender when we're representing the buyer, now that you're a seller, you need to have something to trigger you to go to the co-op agent to make sure they're contacting the lender to find out if the appraisal's been ordered. So just about everything on your buyer sheet can also show up on your seller sheet, but it's showing up as a reminder to your co-op agent. So it's a flag for you to contact the co-op agent and say, hey, have you checked on the appraisal? Because the last thing you want to do, I'm telling you, I've had every story you can imagine. An appraisal done a week before closing, we're told everything's fine. The day of closing, we get some report that says these 5 items need to be fixed to make the appraisal work, and it's the day of closing. So you got to stay on everyone through your transaction so that you can control the experience. So here's what the buyer or seller one looks like. And if you're not looking at the screen, or you're not seeing this, this is all in your toolbox, by the way, that you can look at. From the time we get a contract accepted on a seller's house, again, there's 4 things that need to happen on day 0. Most of those can be done with a couple of clicks. Copy of the contract to the title company, change the listing to backup in the MLS. We have to mark a property under contract within 24 hours on our MLS, or they fine me $50 or $75 or something like that. So that is on day 0, which means that our contact management system is open every single day. Like our task management and our systems, that is running our business. It's open every day. If I get an accepted contract on a listing, I don't just get all excited and have a party, I'm going to get paid. I'm like, okay, we better start that contract to close plan, because there's things that have to happen today. And if I don't start it today, and I try to remember to start it 2 days from now or 3 days from now, I'm already getting charged $50 for my MLS. What a waste of money to pay the MLS $50 because I didn't mark something pending or backup. And that's just our market, is the backup option is available. But on day 1, the seller gets a letter. Congratulations on the acceptance of your offer. Here's what you can expect next, right? Buyer's got 10 days to do inspections, or whatever it is. Buyer's got their time frame to do inspections. So you'll be hearing from us when they get that set up. There'll be an appraiser coming out later on down the transaction. We'll let you know when that's coming up. And those were pulled off the timeline when we saw all the gaps in the thing and where it leaves control of us, like the appraiser. We have no control over that. How soon he'll get out there, how soon he'll get back to us, any of that stuff. So we made that letter off of our timeline and those things. You'll see day 1 or day 2, it doesn't really matter. Add to the sales board. So the sales board, I don't know if you can see it here. Let's see, right over there is my little calendar on the wall. That has all my closings on it, just so I can see them at a glance while I'm sitting at my desk, right? All right, let me get my camera back here. Any questions about anything so far? I know I'm kind of going through a whole bunch of stuff pretty quick. Here's something, look at this. Here's a to-do that happens 2 days after. Urgent, is this a happy client? So that's a flag that pops up 2 days after their contract's been accepted. So it allows me to decide, is this been a rough transaction? Are they just grumpy people and I can't make them happy? You think they'd be happy after they get a contract. So just know that this is in here as a flag, right? And I never really have to delete that because everybody's pretty happy. Even when they start getting a little upset because their house isn't sold yet, they're usually happy by the time we get a contract. So that stays in there because on day 5, they're going to get an email asking them to post a review on us. Guys, it was something I learned in a class once. You want to get reviews when they're happy, right? Not when they're not at the end of the closing, when things are getting delayed and buyers ask them to fix everything and they're looking at their net sheet and they're not happy with the way things are. Get a review when they're happy, like right when they get a contract. So anyway, it runs on through. And then you'll see like only one thing happens on day 7. Contact the seller just to touch base and let them know where things are. See, that's also a flag for me to then go and say, is everything okay? Because I've been running around doing some other stuff for the last week. It pops up their name. I've got to call them today and tell them everything's on track. So it gets me to look and see everything's on track, or we're still waiting on, they haven't called us with their inspection date yet. So that's a point for me to explain. I'm not going to call the agent and remind them that they haven't done their inspection yet. You guys do realize that an inspection is not a good thing in your seller's best interest. We don't want them to do the inspection. Well, I'm not going to remind them and help them know their time's running out. That's their loophole to get out of the contract if we're representing the seller. So I tell my seller at that point, they haven't set the inspection up yet. They got 3 more days according to what I'm looking at here on the contract, but I'm not going to bug them about it. So just be prepared. Their agent may realize their time's almost up and scramble last second to get in there. And I just want you guys to be ready anytime in the next 3 days. After 3 days, they still can do the inspection, but it's not going to be a reason for them to cancel the contract. So you see how that drives that little trigger drives that conversation. But then look, it goes like 1 item on 10 days, 1 item 13 days later, 3 or 4 items on 15, 4 on 20. So there's a lot of space in there. You guys can easily close 10 deals a month and manage a lot of this stuff yourself. I say easily. With a system, you can do it easily, right? Let's see here. See if there was anything. Nope, nothing else in my notes there. Yeah, so there's also check-ins here where we're checking in with the lender to make sure they're doing their job. Has the appraisal been ordered? We're not going to rely on them to do that. And you know how many times we call a lender and they're like, yeah, let me check on that. I'm not sure. We're 2 weeks into the contract and it's closing in 4 weeks. And it can take 2 weeks for the appraiser to get out there, do the appraisal, and another week to get it back. So we're already like 1 week away from closing by the time that would happen. So that needs to be up in your timeline to where you're asking the lender to get the appraisal ordered. And if you're representing the seller, get the appraisal ordered as soon as possible. That's the buyer's money, right? And it lets your seller know up front that it's done and it's ready to go. If you're representing the buyer, we might have that reminder at least 2 weeks into the process because we want to do inspections first before we spend their money on an appraisal to make sure we're still moving forward with the contract. That's why you got to write these timelines out. And as you get more knowledgeable about the process and the issues and problems that will come up, you'll make your timeline better. So it's kind of a living, breathing document for the first few years you're in real estate. This is what I was talking about earlier, is plotting your communication points. Guys, you want to be able to talk to the co-op agent a lot. You want to check in with the lender. You want to check in with the title company. So we have all those built in as communication points on that timeline of when we need to start setting things up. So for example, one of the letters that goes out 2 weeks before closing. So it's been kind of quiet for 30 days, or maybe even 45 days if you're at 60 days out. And then 2 weeks before closing, a letter goes out to our seller. It goes out in their mailbox, and it might even go out as an email as well. But it's telling them that, hey, now the closing is approaching, we're going to kick everything back up into high gear. We may ask you to rush around and do some things, but it's like that hurry up and wait thing, right? So now they get that, and 1 week before closing, we're actually calling the title company to schedule their time. They might be asking about it 30 days prior, and I know where it is in our system because every time I write a contract, I know the system. I created the system. It's my perfect process. There's no reason to set the closing up a month in advance. Guys, you are the pilot of the plane. You are the professional. You don't have people from the passengers come up into the cockpit and fly the plane. So if they call you 30 days before closing and say, hey, we want to get our closing set up, I explain, we've got that under control. It's still 30 days away. We're actually going to do that probably in about 2 or 3 weeks. We'll get that time set up. We'll make sure everything's going smooth, make sure everything's in place, and then we'll get that time set. So unless there's like a reason they're going out of town or something, we can adjust it if we need to. But guys, you're in control. They're not in control. They sell a house once every 10 years. We're hoping you're selling 10 houses every month, right? So you are in control. You know, here's the thing too, on these communication points, sending the client copies of the contract, sending them copies of everything. From the time we list a house until it goes under contract, that timeline. So a week in, we send them marketing things. We send them pictures of their house on the website. We send them the descriptions. We do their address search on Google and print the first 2 pages of Google that shows how many websites they're on. We print, are you guys writing? These are things for your timeline. We print the realtor.com page on our listings. Everybody gets a free realtor.com account as a real estate agent. So we print the realtor.com page that shows how many views they've had on realtor.com, how many people actually clicked on their house and went in to look at the information, and then how many people saved it or sent it to someone. So that could be 40,000 views with 2,000 people that clicked on the house and 120 people sent it or saved it or did something, and we probably had 10 showings. That's a typical marketing day for our listings, right? But I can show them that we've had the exposure in front of 40,000 people in the searches, that you came up in over 40,000 searches. So if you are on the market in a week and they thought everybody was getting multiple offers and the market shifted a little bit, you're sending something to regain their confidence that you've got the exposure. Right now, 2 weeks in at day 14, if I show, you'll see that all on my report, it says set up market review. And then a couple days later, I go do the market review and I actually pull up what has gone under contract since their list date. See, I only want to show them from the time my sign went in the yard, not a 6-month CMA, but I'm talking about from the time the sign went in the yard, how many contracts were accepted with a contract date of their list date or later. And so in 2 weeks, it's almost it's almost zero, right? And if you do pull up some properties that went under contract in the area, they're usually nowhere around the price that you have their house priced at. So if you've overpriced the listing and everything's lower, that's showing them that the buyers are not they haven't bought anything in your price range. Now, you know, we pushed the price a little bit and they bought 2 under contract where we thought we should be, right? So if anything, we lost those 2 buyers. But those market reviews are triggers in the timeline to get me to get back with the seller. And I'm telling you, what's probably happening right now for 90-something% of the agents in the industry is they don't hear from you again until you get a contract. You showed up, put the sign in the yard, they signed the contract, and then you don't hear from the agent again. So that is like the worst thing you can do. And trying to remember to keep in track, you know, it might be easy when you have 1 or 2 listings, but I guarantee you, if you're listening to this, you probably have had weeks go by without touching base with them. And or you've had a seller call you and go, hey, we were just wondering what's going on with the sale of our home. You know, have we had any activity? Have we had any feedback from the agents that showed it? If you're getting that call, that step needs to be added in there to try and be that call before you get the call. Plot documents on your timeline. That again is getting copies of the contracts to them. Just had a seller that was getting a little frustrated. They've been on the market 30 days. See, our market moved from multiple offers going $40,000 over to just 2 months later, everything's sitting on the market for an extra month and they're not getting multiple offers and they're not going over asking price. There's no fights going on anymore. So they were getting really, really frustrated when right when they listed, they heard about somebody getting $30,000 over on their house in a close by area. So the market review came up after 1 week. It showed them where they were on Google, how many hits they had. The second week it came up, I showed them what's been going under contract, that we haven't missed any buyers in their price range. However, they were at 345,000. Everything was going under contract under 300. Everything that went under contract since they listed was under 300. And just when they were getting frustrated, that trigger point, she called me frustrated, we got an offer on their house. And that's even with the check-in points. So it was great. They thought I was the greatest agent ever until they were just like, I think we need to redo pictures. I think we need to redo this, redo that. Our house still hasn't sold. We've had a bunch of people looking. It's overpriced, right? Because we just left a market where we were getting multiple offers to a market that flattened out. Like it was overnight. So I had to show them that the market did not move. And I was able to drum up a 325 offer. So even though we were about ready to drop our price to 325, I was able to get an agent to get me an offer. And she called me first and said, I don't think he's going to go full price. And I was like, just get it in writing. Let me take it to him. And it was 325, which is what I had just been planting the seed for a change in price. So there's the other thing. It's like every 2 weeks or every week, actually, in our seller one, we have a form that just prints out like a letter that's going to be mailed to them, and it's a price change form. And that triggers us to look and see if we should be dropping the price. I'm on it a little bit more than that because I watch my listings daily. That's my main focus, especially if you have a team. You're just doing the listing side, they're doing the buy side. So I watch that even more closely, but my triggers have me at the main points where I think they usually call in and they're worried about stuff. All right, so again, any questions? I'm going to take a breath, and if you want to jump in and say something, ask something, clarity on something. All right. Is this good stuff, guys? Give me some thumbs up. Are you guys like freaking out right now? Are we at freak out mode, or are we just like good information?
Great stuff. Fantastic stuff.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. I could just tell Fidel actually smiled for a second, so I know we're like over the top. You don't see him smile that often, even though he's a happy guy. All right, I'm just picking.
Now, where's our toolbox? I'm new to all this. I'm just getting started.
Sure. Well, and we're going to start another round on the 20th, so you can jump right back in. And just if you are joining, one of the best things I can tell you is to take this for the next year. Every time I offer it for the next year, go through it over and over and over again. So in your toolbox, if you weren't on our email blast to remind you of the class, there's a link in the email. If you shoot me an email, which I'll put it in the chat box here, if you guys are not on the registered list for Ignite, we don't care so much about that, other than I send out a blast email to everybody. kornteamkc@gmail.com. So if you did not get an email reminder of the class today, then you shoot me an email and say, hey, I'm in the Ignite class. Why won't it type? There we go. And I wanted the links to all the classes. So you get links to the past classes that we've done, sessions, and you get links to your document. Oh, you know what? I don't know that the roster there. I got to put that link on there. The toolbox link may not be on that email. Does anybody? Well, I'll put it on an email and send it out to everybody. I just realized it had the roster to the class, which you guys should have that too, because you may see some agents that are just outside of your area or an hour away that you could be marketing to as well, and also learn from each other. So I'll send that out. That may not have been on there. In fact, I'm going to put it in the chat box right now. Oh, where did my chat box go? Oh man, dang computer. Hang on a second. We'll throw it in the chat box here. Ignite links. Almost there. Let me find it. we go. And here we go. All right, coming in the message box now. So you guys can access the toolbox with the, I think it's in the same place where the videos are actually, but I just want to make sure you have it. Thank you for asking that. All right, anything else before I jump back in? Right, so just checking my notes here. So on this part, best practices for managing the deal, as you're making out your timeline, there are things that you lose control of. It's probably my biggest frustration with the whole real estate experience, that there's too many people involved. And there's a reason why they think it needs to be that way, and it's to keep fraud from happening, which did happen when the market crashed. However, when you have 10 people involved in a transaction and 1 or 2 people don't do their job, it's a bad experience for the client. If the clients have a bad experience, then they don't need realtors eventually. They can just do it online through Zillow and Truly and all that other stuff. But like today, for example, we had a buyer that wrote a contract on a house. We wrote the offer for $315,000. It was an investor. They countered back at 328 or something like that. So the buyers decide, yeah, okay, we'll move forward. The appraisal just came in yesterday at 315,000 because I didn't see any sales over 315, which is why they offered 315. That was still the top end of the market. So the appraisal comes in at 315. So we send an amendment back, changing the price to 315, explaining that they're new buyers and they're coming up with $10,000 at closing. They scrape to put that together. The agent sends back a thing and says, well, I think if you can get the seller to take, or the buyer to take that $800 concession off from inspection. There was radon in our property. I don't know if you have radon gases or not, but it's kind of like termites, radon. You probably don't even have termites. I remember when I was in Minnesota, I didn't even know what a termite was till I came to the Midwest. It's too cold for termites. But anyway, like radon came up. So it's about $800 to get a radon mitigation to send that gas out of the house. It's an EPA thing, right? So they said, if you could take the 800 off, maybe I can get the seller to come down. But then she sends back an immediate message. So we'll do 2,000. If the buyers will pay 2,000 more than the appraisal and take the radon off, we can make this deal work. And I literally, she was just trying to get the investors some more money. And I literally sent back a message that said, they're first time home buyers again. They're coming up with $10,000. And I hope that your investor isn't going to miss out on this deal over $2,000, right? Put the house back on the market, have to resell, keep it in your inventory. You know, we got solid approved buyers because we've been in touch with the lender. He's been communicating back and forth. This is a done deal. These are solid, clean buyers, and the lender knows what he's doing and he's got them approved. You know, are you telling me that the investor would rather put the house back on the market? And she just responds back, it's all signed, we're good. So I saved that buyer $2,000. So it's just having those checkpoints to check in on stuff, and when they're going allows you to be in the moment to take care of the situations that are coming up. And we're going to talk about here in a second, the agent relationships that you have, right? But that's, the appraisal's completely out of our control. And so the buyer knows that going into it, that we can't really control that, because they even asked, well, do we need to go get them to raise it up? Well, as a buyer representative, I don't really want to raise the appraisal. I want to try and get it to them for the appraisal price, which we did. And one comment I made is, this is the one kind of thing that makes the difference between a Zillow and a Trulia. So if you guys can use that story, knowing the agent works for an investor, knowing that she just processes these common things out, knowing that they really aren't going to blow the deal over $2,000, gave me the leverage to throw that back out there. That's not going to happen with a computer system. So having those people relationships are huge. I'll get my cursor back over here. So best practices, where does the deal fall apart? Appraisals are definitely a part where it falls apart. Inspections are a part that falls apart. So there's all kinds of triggers before 10 days, usually about 5 to 7 days on our inspection stuff. Like we actually have a trigger that pops up on day 2 that says, is the expiration of the inspection period on the calendar somewhere? And if you looked at my calendar, you would see, I can't get the screen over there. You would see that we have yellow boxes that just say inspection ends in 3 days. So because an inspection could be 7 days, 2 days, 10 days, our default is 10 days. That's what our system is. That's where we usually leave it. But by day 2, we will be looking at it to see if it's a different day than 10 days. And then we put it on the calendar. And we put it on the calendar 2 days before it expires, because if it's not ordered and that inspector has not been out there and we're representing the buyer, we need to have a conversation with the buyer that we're going to lose our leverage to cancel the contract based on inspections. When it's a seller, we just know it's 2 days before the buyer has to do the inspections. And then I have that conversation that I had earlier. But these are the things. This is on page 5 in your book, guys. What's the risk of it falling apart? What are the practices to keep the deal alive? You'll learn this stuff as you do more contracts. What are the deadlines? Get that on your calendar, especially if it's for your buyer and it's contract deadlines, like to get earnest money in, or to get the pre-approval letter, or to get the inspections done, or to get the appraisal ordered. You want those on your calendar. Even if you're doing 10 deals in a month, it's not going to take up very much space on your calendar, but I put it on there as a flag in the morning, very first thing. Like when I get up at 5 or 6 a.m. So at the 3 o'clock spot are little triggers that are just in my calendar, right? All right, so your co-broker relationship, guys, this is the biggest thing ever. If you want to build great relations with your co-op agents, every time you show a house, provide feedback, and then send them a message or even shoot them a call and go, hey, I just want to let you know I sent you feedback on your listing. I'm sure your sellers appreciate getting that feedback. And then you're talking to them and they're hearing your name. And when you write contracts with these co-op agents in your marketplace, they love you because you did a little extra work and you didn't just blow it off, because it's frustrating when you don't leave a card or you don't provide feedback or any of that stuff. So invite, as you do that, keep that agent in your list and keep marketing to them. Send them a page or 2 copied out of the MREA book. Just say, hey, want to share some cool stuff for your business, right? Whatever it is, build those relationships, because it's really about the buyer and the seller wanting to buy and sell real estate. So you can't control how the other agent ethically runs their business, or if they even know what they're doing. Right? I mean, you guys are so fortunate to be in a company where we share everything. I doubt you've run into too many people that just won't share anything if you ask them. So they are in a different culture. So when you're sharing all that stuff and you're helping that along and making the transaction smoother, whether they're doing it or not, they need to be in your checklist and be in your checkpoints. Because one of the things that you'll have is orphan buyers. Orphan buyers are the agents. If you're a seller representative, right, and an agent brings a buyer and you guys put the deal together, the buyer buys the house, they will almost always never hear from that agent again. It's pretty common. So we call those orphaned buyers. They got orphaned by their agent. So you can assume those orphan transactions. Guys, we actually have, when somebody buys one of our listings, we put that buyer in our database. Now, if we co-opt with a KW agent in our office, we probably don't put them in there, or we tag it and then we tag that it was from a KW agent. So we're not going to pick on them. We know that they'll probably stay in touch, but I will tell you this, if they don't, and our system stays in touch over the next 10 years, just in a nonchalant way, and that turned into business, we would see that if we co-opt with that agent, we might ask them if they contacted their agent. If they said, oh, we never actually heard from our agent again, that agent may not even be in business, right? Whatever it might be, we'll go ahead and take the deal and I'll pay a referral fee to them and they won't even know it was coming. I mean, obviously I'll call them if they're in business and they're doing business regularly first and say, hey, the Smiths are closing. Now, if you were that agent working with me and I called you and gave you that piece of business back, do you love showing Brad Korn listings? I mean, that's what we're talking about here. But you've also got, you can use in that app, guys, this is your perfect opportunity to be the resource for them for everything, for decks, painting, all that stuff. In fact, use the KW app in creating these affiliates for refinancing, notary. They can come into your office and make free copies. That's our customer appreciation plan that we offer. You can come get a notary and you get free copies at my office anytime you need them. But movers, all that kind of stuff, trash bin services, whatever it might be, those people are all on our list, and you can call through your database right now, your list of people and ask them, say, hey, is there any kind of service you've used lately that was like over the top? And like, say on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being they're a waste of your time, 10 being they were incredible. Have you used anybody lately that's a 10, an 8, 9, or a 10? You're looking for 8s or higher, right? And it's like, oh man, we actually just met with a financial planner and got all of our wills done and all this other stuff. And it's like, great, who is that? Where would you put him? Oh, 9.5, 10. I mean, the guy knows his stuff. Great, I would love to add him to my list. Can you introduce me? So you can easily use this as a reason to touch base with your 5 a day, to ask if they have any great services, because you're building an incredible service model. You can tell them that. Say, in real estate, people move once every 10 years, and I want the experience to be off the chart. So I'm building my list of people that can provide that. I would love to meet your financial planner. Is there any chance you can maybe give them a call and let them know I'm calling, or give me their information and I'll call them too and let them know we're clients? So those are ways to build your list. Send the KW app. Guys, I mean, just teaching this class, you can see right here where I added this into our campaign. We did not have forwarding the KW app to our clients. So we got all kinds of internet buyer leads coming in, and we've got an incredible follow-up system to make sure their name pops up on us every 3 days. But I wasn't sending the KW app. I actually have a letter and an email that goes out with the old app that we don't even use anymore. It's not even the new app. That when we taught the session about 4 or 5 sessions ago, we were talking about the app and how to forward it. And I was like, well, crud. I mean, that's one of the things I do when I teach. I'm like, I don't think I'm doing that yet. So I've got now the forwarding app. You'll see here, if you can't read it, it's my action list for today. I printed off all my actions for Friday through Sunday, so I can have all my weekend off. I should have done through Monday, really. But I'll do Monday and Tuesday on Tuesday, right? But it says right here, KW app, share Brad's Korn Team KW app through text message. And really all I do is pull up the app, Kelly, and go to share app, and then pull up the number of the buyer that I just put into my phone, and I send it to them. So just even by teaching this class, that's called implementation. You guys take this stuff and implement it and put it into action. Okay, command transaction management. So again, this is just real quickly. Command, you just got to get in there and play with this stuff. These are in your handouts that you can just go click on opportunities, go to contract, and go to edit stages. I just did a screen for you here that if you just highlight over the edge, you'll see this says opportunities, and up in the top corner it said edit, and then it shows you the different places. I don't use this. I don't use everything in command yet because I don't. There's things that are being worked on, and I'll never use 100% of command. I'll use it mainly for getting the people in, putting them on a smart plan to drip on them, to convert them into closed business. And then I especially use it for the opportunity to create the contract, create the documents, and move them into .loop. So we close out everything there, but there's so much stuff in command that if you want the different stages as part of your process, go in and play with this. Take an hour off and go in and play with it. Same thing here. Oh, the consumer guides. Okay, this I have checked out. These consumer guides are unbelievable. They are so full of content, so high quality. Block out an hour and go find the buyer's guide and find the seller's guide. Guys, it's amazing, and it personalizes it and does everything. So I have played with that because like I said before, command is my haven't met database. It's for these internet leads because it's so techy and there's a lot of email that you need the email stuff to be sticky. And these buyer plans and seller plans and everything for our internet leads are what I'm using it for. So that's part of our drip plan there, but go check that one out for sure. The buyer guides and seller guides are unbelievable. If anything, the buyer guide and seller guide might even give you some more stuff for your timeline, because you're going to read through it so you know what it says before you just send it out. And then you're going to make your timeline match what that guide says is going to happen. All right, that's the end of the class. We are on our last session. It's Friday before a holiday weekend, and we ended on time, right on the button. So you guys can have the weekend off and enjoy, what is it, Labor Day, whatever day it is. I don't know. I just know it's a 4-day holiday and I live at the lake. So guys, this is the end of Ignite. Do you have fun? Good stuff?
Awesome stuff, Brad. Thanks very much.
You guys feel like you just got a mastery degree in real estate?
I got an apprentice mastery degree. I got to take it again.
Love it. Love it.
Fantastic
Can't wait for you to be
information.
in the next round. Go ahead.
I'm excited to get my business off the ground with this.
All right. Awesome. And remember, guys, there's a lot of stuff here. You're going to refer back to these things when you get into these situations. Go back and pull up the buyer one when you get your first buyer or your next buyer. Go back and pull up the seller one when you get that call that says, we're thinking about selling our house. Just like trigger to go, I need to go watch the Ignite class on sellers again. And just go through it, pull out your manual, look at your notes, all that stuff right when that call comes in, so you can get that stuff fresh on the top. And then you go, okay, I need to look at this, or my next internet buyer, I need to forward the KW app to them. So just like use this as your resource, it's your guide, it's your subconscious. And the more and more you go through it, eventually it'll just become a part of you. So I really appreciate all of you guys showing up for the class as often as you have, being committed to it. Even if you just got here, that's fine too. We're going to keep going. So spread the word. Tell everybody what you thought of Ignite. I don't care how long they've been in business. There's stuff here that everybody can learn. So thank you all for being committed to it. And I can't wait to see you back on the 20th.
Perfect. Thanks, Brad. Have a great one.
Betcha. My pleasure.